The most engaging aspect about Soma Spider So What is how it constantly introduces new ideas and places to put your thoughts on, saying, oh, this is the most important aspect, and then within a matter of minutes, it can take what you thought was the biggest question, like, okay, were still questioning, could Kumiko become the Demon Lord? This episode comes in and says, no, the Demon Lord is without a doubt a different character. But as cool as that information is, we gotta talk about immortality. We gotta talk about the new humanoid form and the whole idea of souls and how when they were reincarnated, their souls took them into the form that they deserved to be. And when you look at a character like our Spider-Girl, you're saying, wait a second, we gotta talk about this. Or even Admin D saying she was, without a doubt, one of the people in that room. And then there's discrepancies about the number of people who were reincarnated, and there's a lot of vagueness with these answers. So, the biggest question that I've seen week after week for people speculating about the Demon Lord's identity now is without a doubt one of the least important things right now. It's all these other answers and questions that just got brought up, and that's what makes this show so great. Without a doubt, the evolution that Kumiko just received is probably the best case scenario ever because, yeah, she got obliterated. Heads were rolling. And it's a good thing. Now, immortality doesn't mean she's invincible. We can see that this Demon Lord, Ariel, could easily, without a doubt, continue to sever and destroy, and honestly, based on those stats, there's no way to defeat her, and I would hope not, because, I mean, look at this character. It is OP beyond words. The thing that got me was the conversation between Admin D and Kumiko, because Admin D is the most interesting aspect about this show to me. There's so much uncertainty, and why she places so much focus on a spider and her survival throughout the cave. She says it's for entertainment, but there's gotta be a bit more to it than that. Even though I do believe the entertainment factor is a big part of it, there's something else going on, especially if the Demon Lord comes out to simply kill our spider. Why is that? What purpose does that serve? Now, we've never actually been told who Kumiko is in the human world, right? Who she was in her actual life. It's been implied, but there's never been a specific, this is who she was, right? So, when Admin D starts talking about how when you reincarnate, your souls take on the form that's best deserved. And, you know, you look at most of them and they pretty much look the way they are. But then you have some who were a boy in their original life turned into a girl. And then there's the whole, like, the anime hasn't touched upon it too much, but I guess in light novels it's more implied that he was gay in his original life, and maybe this was a way for him to not be shunned out or something like that. But then you have characters like Hsieh, right, who was a dragon, who, yes, once she got her humanoid form, looks pretty much exactly like she was in her original life. But then you have someone like our Spider-Girl, who is a spider, right? And this is where I feel like I'm reaching a little too far, and I don't have enough to, like, cement this theory yet, because there's so many ways I can look at what I'm about to say as there being a good counter, but the idea that she's a spider, and everyone else literally was a human besides, from what we can tell, Hsieh. But Hsieh, once she overcame, I feel like, her struggle, became exactly who she was in her original life, this pretty popular girl, right? So, the fact that we have someone who became a spider, was she literally just a spider caught up in that explosion? But there's not enough for me to cement that idea, because you could easily argue, well, maybe she's a spider because there's the one character who is supposedly dead, according to the teacher, who the reason why, you know, she became a spider was because she was socially awkward, or, you know, she was kind of like thrown into the corner, maybe that. But that doesn't feel like the reason they would go that direction, right? Like, could it just be that an insect, you know, an arachnid was caught up in that explosion? But then I question, well, what's the point of that, right? Why would Admin D be so interested in a spider? And then who is Admin D, right? Because Admin D and the spider have to have some sort of something in common, right? Other than simply entertainment, especially if the Demon Lord is trying to destroy it, right? It was one thing when Mama was coming on board saying, you know, I don't care if you want to be a little rebellious girl in the cave, you can't go to the surface. And now the Demon Lord Ariel comes in, and I'm like, okay, a lot of new possibilities. I still believe that our Spider-Girl becomes the girl in the white cloak in the Demon Lord's army. I do feel like that's going to be her evolution. Especially, I feel like it's even more likely given the color scheme and the fact that we do see that there is a route for, you know, monsters to become more humanoid. So I do still feel like that's going to happen, but the idea that she could have just been an insect bystander is something that intrigues me, especially given the mysterious atmosphere surrounding that call. But at the same time, it could just be that maybe it's more of a personality thing, because what if the reason Hsieh became a dragon was because she was a shitty person, she had to overcome her struggles in order to become, once again, her beautiful self. That could very well be the same thing. Maybe because she was a socially awkward character, it's the fact that maybe she felt like she was a recluse, right? Maybe that she had no self-confidence. Maybe she has to be a spider and overcome that, put herself out there to then become her beautiful human self, right? That could also be a possibility. That's why I'm not like overly confident in this theory. It's just like once they start talking about souls and how like the evolutions and just like the way they were reincarnated, I was like, okay, well that could be a possibility, but that also feels like there's no way it could happen. And that's what I love about the show, is that it constantly has you asking questions. When you think you're confident in where the show wants to go, they throw you some new information that completely shakes up what you want to see. And that's the fun thing about speculating and just watching the show unravel. We're 16 weeks into the show, and it feels like we've barely scratched the surface of the mystery, and Admin continues to be the most mysterious character yet. I mean, the fact that it just felt like everything was going batshit insane. The human side of the story wasn't anything really to write home about this week. It was pretty much set up and, you know, a beach episode if you really want to consider it. But it's nice that they have like an objective, and the idea of how they're going to get into this labyrinth, it was probably the best case scenario. You go the route where you're guaranteed to be attacked, or do you try and take your luck with maybe having to deal with a water dragon? Very interested to see the difference though in power. We have the water dragon fight in the water when they're swimming. Sure, Faye did a pretty good job at pushing it back. And then Kumiko comes in and pretty much slices it without much struggle. Or even Kumiko when dealing with the spider kind of mannequin, which was pretty interesting because now that she is firmly convinced that she's immortal, she's willing to take more risks. Sure, it still hurts like a bitch to get severed and things like that, but she's a lot more reckless, and I think that recklessness has so far paid off up until Ariel comes walking in and kind of changes the foundation of everything. This show has absolutely no chill, and based on where we leave off in this week, that fight scene in the opening between Ariel and her spider seems to be what we're going to have next week. I know a lot of people were saying like, okay, clearly she can't be the Demon Lord if they're fighting in the opening, but I was like, hey, even though I wasn't a big supporter of the theory, a lot of people were saying, what about split personalities becoming their own person? That very well could be something that could happen, right? So I always like to keep, my options open. I don't like to say 100% this is how it's going to go, because this is one of the best series for saying, as confident as you may be with your opinions on where it's going to go, it's probably going to shake it up. And even if you kind of get it right, you're probably still wrong in a different way. That's what makes Soul and the Spider So What one of the most engaging shows to watch, especially on a weekly basis. I'm a big supporter of binging shows. I'm a big supporter of doing whatever is most comfortable. But a show like this needs to be watched weekly or every couple of episodes per day, because you need to have time to sit and think. Because if all this information was poured onto you within a couple of days, you wouldn't be as impacted, I think, as if you kind of sit and stew and kind of make your theories over at least 24 hours, right? Because not many people, if they have all the episodes at their disposal, are going to wait like a week to watch the next one. I can understand watching a few, taking a break, watching a few, right? It just felt like this was an episode that wanted to shove as much information in your face as possible, break down probably the biggest mystery for most people, the Demon Lord, and give you even more bigger mysteries like what's the purpose of their souls and how they clearly were reborn as their true self. But then you have characters like Faye and Kumiko shaking up the equation. You're like, okay, but maybe that's just like more of they have to overcome their struggles before they get to be their human selves. Or is it something a little more like sinister or just literal, just like, oh, was she actually just a spider? Could be, right? This show is clearly saying it. But I think the biggest mystery and I think the biggest takeaway of this episode is that Admin D was without a doubt one of the classmates. I feel like it was implied, but to have that actual drop, it's something that changes everything, and I honestly have no idea where we're going from here. I mean, the fight's probably going to be insane, but at the same time, I honestly don't know who is who from the classmates to who they are now, right? Some have been stated, but I mean, honestly, we still don't know who our Spider-Girl was in the classroom, and we don't know who Admin D was from the classroom. She's saying how many people are reincarnated, with how many were, like, there's discrepancies with the number. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm excited for more. Let me know your thoughts and theories down below. Please, no spoilers. The mods will be active because, let us speculate, let us have fun around here. That's what makes this show so good, but let me know your feelings down below. Like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.